Hello, how are you? I hope you're keeping well. During lockdown, I've been spending some time exploring a DAW on the laptop, getting into some modern stuff with Cakewalk by BandLab. A considerable learning curve for me, but it got knocked down, so. I was speaking with a friend of mine, and he was telling me about using MIDI, because I've been doing everything live, audio. And I don't know, I had a little bit of, I remember MIDI from back in the day, 30 years ago or so, I was using it. But anyway, he said there's many advantages. I think I've come to realize that there are a number of musical disadvantages, and I'm going to do a video on that later with all the work I've been doing and stuff. But this is about just one possible disadvantage. And it was in the back of my mind, a kind of a feeling. I thought, let me see if I can test it. Again, remember, it's non-scientific, and it could all be baloney. But does MIDI mess with the music? Well, I thought I'd do a basic test. I set the piano up, keyboard, audio outputs into one track, and the MIDI output into another with just a basic piano that's in the system. Bear in mind then, I'm an ignoramus, and there may be settings to do with MIDI that I'm not aware of. I just did it as it came up. And also, the instruments, the MIDI instruments that are in there, the instruments themselves, are not all that pleasing. So that affects your perception of everything. Mine, I'm not telling you what it does, but I imagine it might affect perception. I've put two videos there. I was playing. I was monitoring only on the keyboard, so I wasn't tempted to change my playing to the sound that came back, because that's a biggie, isn't it? So I heard the same thing in the headphones both times. No, just the one time, but two lots going out. After the videos, where you see me playing, I then have just the audio, and I've cut it up in fairly quick succession so that you can perhaps more easily hear the difference. I did something fairly rhythmical, because I think that's where, apart from the not so good sound quality of the MIDI instrument itself, because that's where I'm feeling, don't know. Then it follows with another, that's a Latin track, rhythmical, and then a swing track after that, just for something else. So I'd invite you to listen to those if you've got the time, and I'd be interested in what you hear or feel. More about, it's hearing, but it's feeling really, I think, and your experiences maybe. Something about rhythm, and I'm no expert, is this. I've got some bongos here. If I do semiquavers, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do semiquavers again, 2, 3, 4. My feeling is that was obviously to do with velocity, because it was still semiquavers. However, the human body, as you do those, I think it makes a difference to the timing as well as the velocity and the velocity and the slight human difference of placement is a whole other bunch of information. My feeling from listening back is that MIDI simply can't handle that. It's just too much. I mean, how fine do you want to get, of course? The trouble is, that's kind of who I am musically. For me, the music lives in that ever-changing subtlety. Listening back to the files, I made some notes. And to me, though I could be biased, and I am a little bit biased, because the whole MIDI thing, setting channels and all that kind of, I find it very unmusical. I want to get my hands on some skin and make some music and not do all that. But nonetheless, I can learn all that. So let's put that to one side, but it might be a little bias on my part. But the notes I made were the MIDI ones sound awkward, robotic, that it's lost something that's important to me. Some subtle elasticity is gone. Sounds like a MIDI track. And I've put, as you listen, if you do, again, I suggest what I'm talking about is how you feel. I don't think it's something you can compute. How do you feel as you listen between the tracks? Bear in mind, of course, that the MIDI instrument isn't that great, so that doesn't help. But it's something I remembered from before, though from before the instruments were even worse. They've got better. I looked online and noticed that I'm not alone with this. And MIDI 2 is on the way, or it's here, with, I think, a vastly increased resolution, if you will. Yeah, so to me it feels a little bit like a toy. But it possibly works better with certain types of music. Maybe with classical music, maybe with things where that elasticity and that ever-changing information rhythmically and maybe in terms of velocity and that interaction isn't so important. Maybe heavy rock, though I don't think MIDI really goes with heavy rock, but anyway. So it might be, I don't know.